Okay, we're going to go over how to install Rivnuts for use with the ARma15. And the Rivnut is a self-expanding nut, and it's basically when you don't have access to this back side. It's used a lot in the automotive and aircraft industry. So we're going to show you how to do that with some very common tools that comes in our Rivnut kit. And here's that tool here. Okay, and when installing, you just install the Rivnut just like that. It will be assembled in this fashion when you get it in your kit. First step you're going to need to do is mark and or center punch where you want your Rivnut to go. Since this is just for demo purposes, we're going to just mark a random spot here, and you can again use a center punch, but with this step bit that we got, we don't need to. It actually not required. So we're going to go ahead and begin that with the step bit. Always make sure that you're using iPro, because as you can see, there's a lot of shavings that come off. Once you get the hole started, or if you've already center punched it, after you center punch, go ahead and put some type of lubricant on there. Oil just makes the drill, saves your drill bit, makes it go easier. And you can see on our drill bit, we went ahead and marked our stop point. For the easiest technique when installing Rivnuts, it's best to have a relatively tight fit when inserting it. Make sure that you do not enlarge this hole any more than you need to. You can see the amount of slop that I have in there. Very, very little. Okay, but the next step is to put just a few drops of lubricant. It doesn't really matter what type of oil. The thicker the better, though. I mean, you could use motor oil or heavyweight gear oil or whatever you got. If you want to lubricate the threads, it just makes the whole process easier. So you're going to use your first wrench to basically hold the nut, and that nut is a loose nut. It's just there to kind of hold everything in line. And you can see that the Rivnut may want to try, especially when you have it loose like this with a touch of slop, may want to try to pop out. And you can see it right there. So let me angle this. So you can see that it's trying to pop out right there. If it starts to do that, okay. Once you've tapped it into place, then you can continue. You want it to be relatively flush. Okay, now what I want you to do is watch the back side. Now you can see that the Rivnut is starting to expand on the back side, and we have this up flush as it can be. We can just proceed to tighten it down. And it's going to expand even more. Now there's some lines on the back side of the nut, if you have it to where you can actually see the back side. But you will notice an increase in pressure where it just gets really tough, like you're tightening a bolt and it's done. Okay? And right there, you just unloosen the bolt now. And that's all it is to install a Rivnut. I'm going to show you what the finished product looks like. So on this side, I'm going to angle this a little bit. You can see that it is flush, and which is, you need to maintain pressure on this side to keep that flush. And it, like I said, as it pops out, just at that point, as soon as it starts to grab a hold, stop and tap it in. What happens if you do not stop at that point and you just continue to do it once it's not flush here, is you will get this part where the back of the riv nut expands. You'll get that part on the wrong side, and you'll just basically waste that riv nut, and you'll have to start all over again. So very key when doing the riv nuts. So you can see that it expanded here, and just for demo purposes, I'm going to show you. You know, it's not going out. It is firmly in there, and then now you can just mount any old bolt. Okay. What is the advantage to using riv nuts? Well, maybe you don't have access to this backside. Okay, it's used a lot in the automotive aircraft industry for that purpose, when you don't have access to the backside of material. And for our purposes, on our first videos, install videos, we did this without riv nuts. We used just standard nuts and bolts, and what we found was it took way too many hands in there. We actually had 3 people trying to hold everything back, and one guy trying to hold a wrench back here, and one guy trying to tighten this, and it was just a way too many dudes in the back seat of a truck, for sure. So after that negative experience, then we went to riv nuts, and it's so much easier and so much simpler. Once you put the upholstery over all of this, then you just have to find the riv nut. You don't have to try to trying to blindly put a wrench behind there, and what a disaster that was. But if you want to try it and do it that way, by all means you can do it that way, but expect to need a couple more hands than just yourself, for sure.